Chris with Life 180, and I am back here today with Matt Seibert, who is our Director of Agent Development. And it is my first live video from the Dominican Republic. We are here. I'm in our lobby area at the hotel that we're renovating. So before anything happens, at any moment in time, we could hear some crazy chainsaws and all that stuff. And if it gets too loud, I'm going to mute. I'll let Matt talk. We'll go from there. But we're going to do the best we can with what we have in front of us. Still working on getting my studio completely updated and finished up at the top of the hill. And so I'm just kind of working with a makeshift thing, get up right down here right now. But Matt and I were talking earlier today, and we just thought it would be good to go live and talk about the current status of the life insurance business, talk about what's going on in the world of IMOs because of the fact that there's all sorts of new rules coming out when it comes to advertising, when it comes to generating leads, how you can manage those leads, how the rules around selling leads and how you have to manage the information of the selling of the leads and all these different things. And so quite frankly, Matt's way more up to speed with this stuff than I am. So I'm going to let him talk about it a lot more. But, you know, I think it was interesting when I first saw the information come down. It really, in a way, made me smile because I was like, oh, you know, this is going to put an end to all the illicit lead selling tactics and all. You know, my mindset and framework has always been we need to teach people how to generate their own leads. And if you're generating your own leads, you're never going to have a problem as long as you get all your systems set up the right way, which you're not going to be able to generate your own leads if you don't do that pretty much. So it's really good. So what I would love to do, Matt, is before getting into anything else, I want to kind of have you talk about what your perspective is on the entire lead scenario, on what's going on in the industry, what the timeframes are, how it's going to impact people. I know people, agents that work with FFL, agents that work with any other company that Symmetry, anybody that deals with any IMO that is a leads generation based organization where you join there and their primary value proposition is that you can buy leads from them, right? So what's your take on all that? How's it going to impact everything? And what do you think the fallout's going to be?
Well, I mean, it really changed the whole landscape of the lead gen industry as far as like if you're generating leads to sell. And then if you are a company that are relying on leads, it changed the entire game. So to kind of give some backstory, if you guys are not familiar with my story, I spent 8 years in like a WFG model where we didn't have to buy leads. It was mainly focused on in WFG, PHP, those types of models. You're going out recruiting and then going through the warm market. And so after COVID and the company that I was with dissolved, I ended up with a company where all they did was buy leads, you make phone calls, you sell those leads. And that was kind of a new experience for me. And I spent about 2 years in that type of model. And, for me, it wasn't for me, but what I realized, and I think a lot of people cover up, a lot of these leads that are sold to like 10 different agents. I don't care what anybody says. They can tell you they're exclusive, but there's no way they're exclusive when you call them and they say you're like the 10th person calling. So I think you give somebody an inch, they take a mile. And I think in this industry, when greed set in as far as being able to make a profit off of selling leads, they thought, you know what, why don't we quadruple our profit and sell that same lead to multiple people? And what's crazy is those people taking those leads, they'll resell them themselves. And this has created an environment where people are requesting information. Maybe they're interested in a product or service. And next thing you know, their phone is blowing up, getting text messages for 3 months straight. And I think this whole, it's really driven by greed. And because of it, now the punishment comes. The FCC is going to make a lot of changes that are going to come into play, I think, June. And it changes how leads can be distributed. And I think the main thing is you can no longer share leads. You can't buy age leads. And I think the big difference is next time somebody's like on a website and they click on an ad and they want information, they're going to have to click on multiple things. The person that's going to be calling them, I'm not sure if the company is allowed, but I know the person that's going to be calling them has to be an option they can actually click on. And so they call it one-to-one. So basically, that person is the only one that's allowed to reach out to you. Now, if you've ran leads before, that kind of changes the whole landscape. And then if you're a lead vendor and you're generating leads, that changes how you're going to make profit, because it's a lot more expensive creating leads for individuals versus creating a lead for a bunch of people and then reselling them. So it's a pretty big change. I mean, if you think about it, a lot of agents in the lead based side, they rely on buying age leads because they're cheaper and they want to get their skills down and they want to develop before they buy the expensive leads. So that pathway is pretty much gone. Data can't be sold anymore. That's going to be huge. And here's a big part too. Now, as an agent, the responsibility is on you, meaning before you call anybody, you have to have proof of consent. And this is going to be a big problem too. So if you don't have actual proof of consent and you make that phone call, I was following this lawyer. He was talking about the punishment, right? So let's say you called the lead that they said that there was consent, but you didn't get proof, and you sold that client an insurance policy. They said that that person can now sue you, sue your upline, your IMO, and the carrier if you sold the policy. So that's what the lawyer said. I'm not sure how far that is actually going to be pushed forward, because there are going to be some changes. But to think that now you have to make sure as an agent you have proof before you call anybody, I mean, that in itself kind of changes your business as well. So a lot of big changes coming. Another thing I heard is there's going to be a big business, a huge amount of business for attorneys, because they see this coming. They're going to set up do not call phone numbers in their offices. So they're just waiting for you to call that number. And of course, you call that number, they're a lawyer, and now you got a lawsuit. And I think the fine they put, it's $1,500 or $1,500 per dial or per violation. So I mean, that can add up pretty quickly. And just a lot of changes are coming for anybody that's relying on leads and any organization that's relying on selling leads to their agents. It's going to be interesting, all the changes that are going to be happening in the next few months.
I think it's awesome, honestly. I think the new regulations need to be put in place. I think it's one of those things where not having them has allowed just so much nefarious activity when it comes to the business, and a lot of times people don't know it. And the scary part now is, if agents buy leads and you're basically buying leads creates a liability for your business now. Think about that. Like, because you're on the hook. So you better be really good at vetting where you're getting that source of leads from. And that's going to be a whole different animal, knowing how to do that on its own. And Millennial Wealth Creator, just said on here, buying leads sucks. It's true. Like, buying leads sucks. Way better to put the work in, build a system that generates your own. Listen, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I truly believe that everybody should be doing what we're doing here, that by building your own YouTube channel, building content, creating content. I talk about it all the time. Nothing in the world is going to make you better at being an agent than creating content. The best way to learn is to teach. Remember, it's not the easy way to go by any stretch. It's going to take a little longer, but once you get it down, you're going to have control of your own lead source. It's going to be organic. There's going to be no ad spend. Even if you want to spend ads, you'll at least spend ads, and having a built up channel will help those ads convert on a higher level, because there's going to be social proof behind the asset of your channel or your Instagram page or your TikTok, whatever you want to do. Is there, because like, if you have a following, that makes you more legitimate in the eyes of people. And the fact that I have almost 30,000 followers doesn't make me better than some other people, right? Like, it just means I've got 30,000 followers, and in the eyes of the world, that is social credibility, and that that just means I've been doing it long enough, consistent enough, and that creates a trust factor with people. So if they say, hey, I talked to Chris, and then I talked to some other random agent, and I'm hearing a similar story, chances are they're going to choose us because of the fact that I've got that social proof, right? So let's see here. So we got another question here. Just curious if you use paid ads to drive traffic to your YouTube channel, and does it actually work? The answer is no. I've never really paid. Well, no, that's not true. The answer is yes. I've done it, but I've never done it at scale. I've never done it with any level of real intention. We've done some one-off campaigns that were designed to grow the channel. I threw some money into thinking like, hey, I'm not interested in buying ads on YouTube. I'm more interested in spending money to targeted people to grow the following, because my mindset was if I could build a following more and they subscribed, well, then they're going to watch my content on a more regular basis. And then, the long-term prospect of that is they would come through and convert better. What I can say is that didn't really work very well for me. It was, I mean, I guess it's hard to quantify, but I can say my subscription numbers didn't go up enough over what I was normally performing at on additional subscribers every month compared to the amount of money that I was spending. It just wasn't, the numbers didn't seem to work out to the level that I thought would be worth it. So it's one of those things that's hard to quantify, right? But and maybe it worked out over a longer period of time because that was probably a year and a half ago that I did that. But I just think the good old grind of the organic stuff. We've done a lot of stuff on Instagram and Facebook when it comes to generating our own leads and doing paid traffic for leads, and we've had success generating leads. It's but it's just a different animal. I'm not the best person at working leads personally because I just don't enjoy that game. I'm not the guy that wants to work leads hardcore like that, cold calling. Good afternoon, Jeffrey. I'm not the guy that wants to work those and like bust my butt and do that grind. That's just not me. I really enjoy this grind. I enjoy getting on and going live. I enjoy creating the content that's really focused on education. I enjoy all that stuff because of the fact that like I feel like my only job is to add value into the world, and the people that respond to those to the videos on YouTube, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter, all TikTok, all these accounts. And right now, like it's just using technology to create that maximum capacity output, right? Like we have this one channel, we're utilizing a software tool called Restream.io, not to give away my secrets, but like Restream.io is awesome. Like we're literally doing one video right now and it's going on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. It's like, or X, whatever it is now, Elon. It's like, it's all over the place and it's just one feed and it's going out. And I think it's great. I think if you do this and you focus on a channel, and I would say that you should probably focus on one channel, but then use technology to say, hey, because listen, YouTube is my thing. I have an Instagram channel page. I have a TikTok page. Those aren't my focus. If anything comes from them, it's kind of like the icing on the cake kind of deal. My focus is YouTube. So, but how foolish would I be to just say, no, I don't want to do an Instagram page or a Twitter page or a LinkedIn page because of the fact that like YouTube is my thing, when I could just pay $49 a month and have a piece of software and it makes it so for every time I go live, I can push it everywhere I go, right? Like, so to me, it only makes sense to leverage that technology. And by doing so, it increases your reach. It increases the eyeballs on your content. You don't know who else you're going to serve. And the beautiful part is when people watch your videos, if they watch them enough, I can't tell you how many people have come through and said, hey, Chris, I don't even need to be sold. I've been watching your content. I probably watched 50 hours of your videos. I love what you have to say. I bought in hook, line, sinker, and all I want to do is figure out the best design and best policy for me. Can I work with your team? Let's just move forward, assuming that I'm doing this with you, right? Like, do you realize the value of that compared to like doing a paid lead where you got to get 100 leads and you got to work those leads, and maybe if you can get 20 conversations or 10 conversations and you can get down to like maybe 2 to 4 sales out of the 100 leads, like that is a grind. And I'm not saying it's not worth it. That's just not the business I want to be in, you know? And so, like, I think what's the beautiful part about this, though, is it's going to force a lot of people into getting better at their job. You know, it's probably going to push some people out of the business as well. But those are the people that we probably don't want here in the first place. You know, and that's good, right? They're probably the people that are not doing the best, you know, the best representation of the industry as a whole. But I'm excited about it. I think the opportunity is there for people to create their own leads. We're actually working on a system right now because I realize a lot of people don't want to be marketers, right? Like even if you like dealing with the leads game, I get it. Like the question is, how are you going to manage, you know, this transition for yourself if you do like leads? And I would say, work on finding a company, and we don't have this set up yet, so being fully transparent. But one of the things that we saw is an opportunity to take our lead system that we're doing to generate on our own. We're having success. We're generating leads for a good, fair price. And so rather than us saying, "Hey, Matt, I'm gonna sell you leads," it's, "Hey, Matt, we can manage your lead expense and build it for you and just charge a management fee of your lead expense and get you a whole system that we know is converting." And I think that's going to be what we see moving forward for the people that do it the right way, in the ethical way. I think that's going to be the model that actually works. And so that's what we're trying to look forward to at Life 180. One of the things I've always said is I'm never going to be a leads agency. I'm never going to sell leads, right? But if we've created a system that we know will convert, that we know will generate leads, you know, I don't want to sell people leads, but if you want to spend money on ads to get your own leads, our agency, because I run a marketing agency that does all this funnel development and stuff, Life 180 Media, you know, we can help you, you know, with all that along the while as well. So what are your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I think, you know, it's going to create short-term disruption, but long-term, I think it's going to start building trust. And I think quality, we'll see a lot more quality with leads. And I think it's going to help all around, because now if you are making phone calls and let's say you do actually obtain leads in the right way with all the changes that are in place, I think we're going to get to the point where people are going to be more open to talking with you because they understand the rules have changed. Their phone's not going to be blown up. And it's just, you know, you see this industry, and I just never thought this industry, with everything that I've seen, you know, you just crack open that hole and then they rip it wide open and try to take everything that they can. So what I mean by that is, like with the leads, you could just see the greed behind the whole lead industry, and that they just take advantage of the whole industry, where it's like now everybody's getting called for 20 different agents, and they ruined it for everybody else. And what I'm seeing, I'm not a forecaster, but what I predict is that same mentality, where now it started from a small group, now everybody's doing it, and the consumer got hurt, and so the FCC stepped in to help the consumer. I'm seeing that same transition with IULs, because back in the day when I sold IULs, very few agents probably sold it compared to now. And now, I mean, if you want to look at comparatively, almost every company that has originated from leads are now selling IULs. And that's a moral hazard. And I think because of that will too be punished, I think, soon enough, when the regulators figure out how these IULs are sold and misrepresented. So it's going to hit everywhere for sure.
I mean, I think that's crazy, because like if we look at the fact that a lot of IUL sales are being done through this lead generation, these lead generation systems, and I think like just being on a couple of the training calls with FFL that I saw is an example, and they were bragging about their one call closes and the fact that they had simplified issue and they could close IULs on one sales call. I got news for you. If you're closing anybody with any type of permanent life insurance on one call, you're doing it the wrong way. You're not really serving those people, gaining and gathering enough information about them to be able to make an educated suggestion or advice to them about what they should be doing to better their financial future or take care of their life insurance needs. It's one sales call is not even close to enough. And yet that was the conversation on the training, was like, let's close these people. And we've got this great product because it pays you the highest comp. You can close in one call and you could win a car. That was the trifecta of why this one Ethos product was the best IUL product on the market. And it's like, wow, that out of the companies that sell leads, that is the mindset. And that's my problem with it, is not that leads are bad, but it's that leads just focused with the intention of selling are bad. If you're willing, I think one of the challenges with leads is that when you spend money on leads, you have this burn of money, and you're looking at this burn and you're like, all right, I got to get my money back. I got to recoup. So I need to make that quick buck. I need to make that sale and, kind of always be closing kind of deal, right? Like, and just make it happen, get the dollars through the door. And it becomes this burn and churn game. And I just really think that the sales cycle of the life insurance should take longer. So now that we're talking about this, like, I've never even really articulated it that way. I don't have a problem with leads. I have a problem with the burn and churn mentality of leads. Like, if you want to buy leads and nurture them and take time and ask questions and not be pushed to like sell really quickly and just like really focus on cultivating the relationship and adding value to them and all these different things, well, then leads can be an amazing thing. But the problem is now you're dealing with a lead that is completely cold. Now the sales cycle is going to be much longer because you got to build that trust. So if you're going to do that, you better have what I would call an authority platform that you can put them into a scalable automated system that educates them to everything and helps you build that relationship and build that trust and build your authority. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. So I would say if you're going to use the lead game, make sure you have something of you, not of me, not of some, like, if it would work if it were me and it, like you said, hey, I'm affiliated with Chris, or Chris is my mentor, I'm on the Life 180 team or something like that, and we have those resources, right? And that's fantastic. But still, nothing beats the fact that, like, if Matt is going to go get leads and he's going to pay for leads, it should be Matt doing a course, because Matt should be the perceived authority in the person that he's trying to serve. The person that's coming through bought the lead, and he's just got to go through and have that warm-up sequence, that warm-up period to get them from a cold lead to a warm lead. And you should never sell cold. You should always educate cold, warm up, and then sell as time goes on. What are your thoughts behind all that, brother?
Man, I think what you said was spot on one thing. I think a lot of agents should probably just to remove moral hazard, start while they have income coming in. Because you get a guy that has no income coming in, they have to now buy leads. And if you think a person like that is not going to do whatever they can to make their money back, even if it's above the client's best interest, I could probably show you numbers where that's not going to work out that way. So that's the one problem. And then tack on the peer pressure of promotions and all the incentives on top of you selling at a high level. I mean, it just creates an environment where you're selling to sell to make money, which I know we're in the business to make money, but you have to put people first, right? And it just doesn't cultivate a culture like that, unfortunately. And I just haven't seen it, and where it's just all lead based. And for me, like when I work with agents, the first thing I ask them, hey, do you have income coming in? And if they say no, I say, look, this is going to take a longer process than you imagine. You're not going to make money overnight. You should probably go get a job where you're not worried about your bills, and then learn this on your side, learn this on the side, right? Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of these lead-based companies, they'll take you off the street if you don't have any job, any income coming in. And let's say you can't even buy leads, they'll just give you their leads and say, hey, go sell these. I'll start you off. You'll make some money, and then you could actually build up your cash that way. And then we're on our way. But again, they're starving. They need to pay their bills. Whether they got those leads for free, we can argue, are they really selling on the best interests of the client? And that's really the big problem. And we could probably go on a whole other video on the policies that they're selling, selling the most expensive policy rather than the best policy. But that's a whole different video that we could talk about. But it's a whole moral hazard at the end of the day. And I think a lot of people, because I've been in both. I've been in that MLM environment with WFG where you're going out recruiting friends and family. Then I've been into the lead-based. And what I realized is most agents that I've met, they've only experienced one or the other. Very few have actually been in both. And then since I've been in both and I see how you actually run the company, every single agent would prefer your model any day. Imagine a client calling you or setting up an appointment. They already know who you are. They're already picking out policy structures or what they want because they watched all your videos. I mean,
Mhm.
it's like a whole different experience. You're not chasing them. They actually
Yeah,
want it, right?
yeah,
And so I think because you can't create that overnight and it's not going to happen fast, a lot of people just don't want to do it. And I think in life we look at a lot of things. The things that take a little bit longer, you might not
yeah.
get instant gratification, but you're going to be thankful that you did it long term. And I think everybody would have. I mean, that's the first thing that I saw when I first met you. And I said,
Hmm.
"Well, how do you get all your appointments?" Oh, the YouTube channel. And then when I came over to your house and I heard some of these calls going through, I thought to myself, "I want that business. That's the business that I want."
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's nothing like it in the business, quite frankly. And you talk to anybody that has a YouTube channel and that's succeeding, and they'll tell you that. And so it just takes time. Um, I've got two of my favorite quotes, maybe two of my top 10 favorite quotes that I ever use is, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing poorly until you're good at it. And that, I would say, is like the content game. Nobody's going to start this and just be natural and flow and know how to do it all and get the editing right. And you're going to build your own vibe and your own feel and like whatever. And you'll consistently get better and better and better. You'll hire different editors. You'll get better at like kind of like just the brand that you want to put forward. And then my other favorite quote is, you have to be willing to go slow to go fast. And in a world, and I think, we just talked about the burn and churn mentality of leads. Well, that goes when you create that culture of burn and churn, you create that culture systemically throughout the whole organization. And it's not just leads, it becomes a people issue as well. And that is one of the reasons we have a 93% failure rate within 3 years of starting in the business. And so to me, if like, once again, it's not that leads are bad, it's the burn and churn mentality of them. And when you're in that kind of boiler room kind of burn and churn environment, energetically, that's where the agents kind of end up falling prey to that culture as well. And then, that's where people kind of fall out of the business and don't succeed. And it's not about really teaching people how to build their business. It's about these leads things. And by the way, when you buy leads like that, you're never really in control of your business. What happens if your lead vendor goes away? What happens if the laws change? What happens, if all these things happen? You are completely exposed and at risk. And you're going to see a lot of people over the next 6 months that have made a lot of money in this business that don't even really know what they're doing. They don't know how these products actually work. They know how to sell based on a script. They know how to buy leads, and they know how to get people to do something because they're maybe a good salesperson. It doesn't mean they're good at serving people, right? And I think in this business, we need to be good at serving people. And that's why when I use the phrase, and I know I use it a lot, and I know a lot of people kind of give me feedback like, what do you even mean by that? It's like, you got to be willing to go slow to go fast. You have to learn this stuff and make sure you align yourself with people in an organization that you can learn it and be willing to, have the support to do it the right way before you go out and try to really sell it. Now, I can talk to anybody and know that I have the ability to help them because I'm really good at asking questions. I'm really good at getting to know people really fast. And I'm really good at being bold and getting to the heart of the matter and really kind of asking people the uncomfortable questions. And my wife is always like, whoa, you just met that dude a half hour ago and you're already asking him like some of the most intimate questions in the world. And I'm like, because I don't care. Like, I mean, I don't care about their judgment of me. I care about like where they are, what's going on. I have no interest ever in my life in surface level conversations. Like, to me, that's just boring. It's a waste of time. If I'm going to have surface level conversations, I'm going to stay home and read a book. You know what I mean? Like, if I'm going to be out in the world, I want to have depth and impact and like real connection with people. And that comes down to really asking the questions that matter. And, so I would just say you don't get there overnight though. So the key is to make sure that you align yourself with people that share your values, share your beliefs, that want to make the same impact. And, it's worth it. Like my mission with Life 180 even though a lot of people criticize me for this and say that the model is kind of flawed. But my model and my mission is to say, listen, you join us. I'd rather you not sell a policy than go out and sell a bunch of policies improperly. My only mission is that you come in, you join, as long as you are able to educate yourself and learn, and that whether you ever sell a policy or not, you leave your relationship with us or you continue your relationship with us without selling or making any money, and you just kind of keep working your other job, and you feel like the relationship with us has improved the quality of your life because of your education and because what you can do for yourself, right? And so it's just, when you do that, now you can have the mentorship that you trust, right? The Stephen Covey wrote a book, The Speed of Trust. And if you have mentorship that you trust, I'm going to let you speak to this a little bit because you've had a lot of experience of working with organizations, where they just force you to do things and force you to recruit and force you to sell to people before you even know what you're doing. And they're just like, just trust me, just do what I say. Success leaves clues, do all these things. My mindset is like, if I'm mentoring somebody, I'm gonna guide you, but my guess is anybody that's mentoring with me is going to trust me a lot deeper because of how I show up in the world, and because of the fact that there's not going to ever be any questions off the table, and that mentorship isn't about getting them to learn a script. It's about getting them to understand a concept so they could do it without a script, because I remember when I first started having to do this and going out on my own, I used Circle of Wealth, which is an amazing software. If anybody's out there looking, I would absolutely give it my stamp of approval. In using that, when I first started doing it, for the first 6 months, I used it and I was running 4 or 5 appointments a day, utilizing this software and just utilizing it, sitting down with people across the table and doing it kind of old school style, 2014. And then, you get to the point after 6 months of running 5 appointments a day and you're like, I don't even need this anymore. And then you start to realize like, okay, this is landing home with them. This is landing home with them. That's not. I'm going to customize my own thing. I'm going to figure out my own way of talking about it. I'm going to make it more authentic to me. But that comes with time, and that comes with the fact that I had this software and I had this system and strategy and philosophy to learn, but I had good mentorship and I had all these things, and I was able to do business in the meantime while continuing to learn. And then once, and I was able to do that because I aligned and agreed with the philosophy and I trusted it. So I was able to do things quickly, and then at the end, I was able to create my own thing and then go from there. So I want you to ask, but Hazeltine LLC just asked a question. How do you handle rejection and the fear of rejection? So it's so funny you asked this. We talked about this a little bit last night. I hopped on training with the people in the Life 180 Challenge, and we were doing a little role playing. And I think this topic came up a little bit. My mindset is this: if you're in this business, okay, I'm gonna say this. If you're in this business and you are fearful of rejection, I'm going to tell you that's because you don't believe enough in what you do. And here's what I mean by that. Because I know a lot of people are going to be like, Chris, no, I believe in what I do. I just still, have an unease about that. You need to get to the point. So it's not that you don't believe. I'll say this. It's that your ego and your belief is less than your ego, right? So you need to get to the place where your belief in what you do supersedes your ego and is greater than your ego, and is because the only reason you're scared of rejection is because your own ego. That's it. And until you get to the place where you care more about the fact that you have a responsibility and you believe so much in what you do, you believe in so much in the fact that you having a conversation with them is going to make much more impact. And it's not about you making a commission. It's not about you getting rejected or being successful and looking like a rock star helping them or anything of that nature. It's genuinely about you serving them, right? Until you get to that place where you feel that way and it's authentic, you're probably always going to have fear of rejection issues. And, it doesn't happen overnight. It's natural, right? And I'm not saying this from a judgmental perspective. I shared some stories and I'll share them again. Last night I shared, I've had personal, very, 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 very personal instances in my life that have built my belief in life insurance so much. I remember when I first got in the life insurance business, all I cared about was the cash value. That's all I cared about. Like it didn't matter. And if you watch me now, you know that my conversations around this are wildly different. And it's not that I don't believe in the cash value. It's not that I don't think the cash value isn't an extremely important asset and value that you can have in your life to help you accomplish your goals. It absolutely is. I think it's one of the most powerful things. And I think that I have some stories that impacted me. Like I'll go back, I'll share my wife. One of the things now I've been talking a lot this year about build your net worth. Buy your net worth, build your cash flow, right? So buying your net worth, I used to start with like, let's just get the highest cash value policy we could possibly get. Now I'm like, let's just get the most death benefit that we can possibly get, right? And let's figure out from a cash flow perspective, what does that look like if we buy the maximum convertible term policy to lock in our human life value and buy our net worth, what the life insurance says our future potential net worth could be if we do everything right from here to the rest of our life. Why would we not want to do that, right? Because if you think about it, our financial goals have to be long-term. And if you reverse engineer and think long enough term, then you reverse engineer it and you go, okay, this is the objective I'm after about saving money and investing in real estate, building cash flow, doing all these things. You're after a goal, right? If you think about it, that's what you have the ability to do with life insurance is buy that result immediately and have it done. That's powerful. And so to be able to do that is amazing. And then you're building your cash flow. And as you build your cash flow, you can convert that into actual cash flow policies and you lock in your insurability by doing that, right? Now, here's my story that had a massive impact to me. I was working at an IUL company. I left that IUL company. I started Life 180 in 2014. I started my own policy. I got my own policy. We started it. I put a lot of money into it, cash flow wise, but I also got into a lawsuit with the company that I left. And so cash flow was kind of burning. I had an office space. I had a lot of overhead. I was totally stressed out. And so my wife, full transparency, we didn't get her a policy right away. And when I was at the previous IUL company, I never was able to get her a policy because she became sober in 2009. So she was active in Alcoholics Anonymous. And when you're newly alcoholic, they're not going to get you a policy. You're uninsurable. They're just not going to do it. And so that is what it is. And so we weren't able to get her a policy. And then in 2014, after 5 years, we were able to get her a policy. But because of the fact that I did a policy on myself and I put so much focus and emphasis on the cash value, I didn't do it on my wife, right? Well, April 2015, we got rear-ended coming off a highway in Vermont because the guy in front of me stopped to give money to a homeless guy. So the light was green. I stopped behind him, and whatever, and a car coming behind us going 60 miles an hour on the off-ramp ended up just railing us. And my wife got a traumatic brain injury and no longer insurable because of the brain scans and the brain damage. And so all of a sudden, because I was so focused on the cash value and not that, my wife, who's amazing and beautiful and fit and healthy and all these things, is no longer insurable. And so that one little mistake made it so bang. I guess I'm saying it this way: people take their insurability for granted. Don't, right? And just don't. And that is an experience that had an impact on me. The next one I say is, and these are real life experiences. The next one I have to say, so going back to your fear of rejection, in 2016, I gave up my license. So this next one, I give myself a little bit of grace because I wasn't licensed at the time. So I had limited capacity to actually help. But in 2019, while I was unlicensed, I had my best friend, my best friend in the world. I'd see him 5 days a week. He was like my brother. And we would meet up and have like a drink kind of at the end of every work day and whatever. And I remember when he was an executive with Papa John's and made like $400,000 a year, was like really doing really well, but he only had $250,000 of life insurance. And I was like, dude, you really might want to think about more life insurance. What would happen, to your family if ever, anything happened to you? What would happen to Lizzie? What happened to your wife? And he was just like, man, I'm good. The company's got it. Like if I needed more, the company would have it. Like they take care of me, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, man, I really think I think it's a mistake. I think you should really look at it. But I left it at that. I didn't push because I wasn't licensed at the time. I had to give up my license because of the lawsuit. And Otherwise, they were going to keep suing me. So I had to give it up. And I had to basically choose between keeping my license and keeping my mouth shut and selling, or giving up my license and making YouTube videos exposing IUL. So I chose the latter. And so in 2022, I got my license back, and, you know, it's good. But what wound up happening is in 2019, my buddy started telling me he was not feeling well and blah, blah, blah. Before you know it, his aortic valve, they found out had an issue, had an infection. He had a tooth infection. By the way, speaking of dental work, he had a tooth infection that he didn't finish his antibiotic cycle. The infection spread down to his aortic valve in his heart. They thought it was going to be a routine surgery. He ended up going into the surgery. They had problems. He went through 6 months of rehab. After he went into a coma for 30 days, they got him out. With the atrophy was so bad, he had to learn how to walk. I was at the rehab facility with him every single day, trying to help him walk, giving him emotional support, all these different things. The day they were releasing him from the hospital, 6-7 months later, he died of a brain bleed because of the blood thinners they had him on, right? And so, but here's the deal. He died, and he had $250,000 of life insurance, and he had a wife in a big house that they were renting. He didn't have a ton of savings because they lived above their means. His wife had to scale down. She had to move into a condo. His daughter was a sophomore in college, and she had nothing. They had no college plan. He was just paying everything out of cash flow because that was the way he handled things. And so, to me, when I hear fear of rejection, what do I think is like, you just, even though I wasn't licensed in that time, if I could go back and do it again, I swore to myself I would never allow any kind of conversation like that to happen to me ever again. And everybody, listen, what do they say? A wise man learns from a smart person learns from his mistakes, and a wise person learns from others' mistakes, right? So just be a wise agent. Don't be a smart agent, be a wise agent, and like learn from those mistakes, because I promise you, that scenario will haunt me for the rest of my life to a certain extent. I remember when he was recovering and when he was going into his operation, and then after he was recovering, when he first could talk, the first thing he said to me, because he still wasn't sure he was going to make it, when he first woke up, first thing he said to me was like, please just make sure my wife and daughter are taken care of, because they didn't even know anything about any money, and like, so it's just crazy to think, like, the one thing I could have done was just make sure he had that policy in place, and really encouraged him. Listen, it's not that I could have made him pull the trigger, right? I want to make that emphatically clear. I could never have forced him to do that. And it's not my job to do that, but it is my job to give him the information and the education to make a better decision. And I know this guy, I know his character, I know his morals, and I know he would have done it, if I had just really taken the time to do it. But because I wasn't licensed, I just didn't. And, whatever. And so that's that. And then the next one I talk about is my father-in-law, getting diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And if it weren't for doing this and the living benefits, he wouldn't be here. And so the 3 most impactful situations in my life when it comes to life insurance have nothing to do with the cash value. Nothing. Right? The cash value is amazing. I mean, I'm here because of it. I'm in the DR. We got this hotel. We're launching this fund. So I guess, that's the 4th. And that, as amazing as this is, as amazing it is to now be a fund manager and to be doing all these things down here. And I love it. And I love my life. And I feel super blessed. And like, I wouldn't change that for the world. That's a distant 4th place to the other 3 scenarios that I'm talking about, And so that's why when everybody's talking about the power of the cash value and all this stuff, like, yeah, it's important, but it's a distant 4th place, and I just know that the more I've experienced, the more of an obligation I feel like I have, because it's an empowerment. It's a responsibility to take that information and go and help people with it. You can never force anybody. If you're worried about rejection, that means you're trying to sell people. Like, you got to get your mindset to be like, I'm trying to serve people, right? And if they're rejecting, you gotta get yourself to the point where you're positioning it to them in a way where they're not rejecting you, they're rejecting themselves. They have their own self-limiting beliefs, they have their own restrictions, and you can only put your head on your pillow at bed, at bed every night, just knowing that you did all you could to expose them to the right information. You can never force somebody. It's the old, you can lead a horse to water, you can't force them to drink, right? And so, yeah, man, I don't know how I went on that tear, but
It was good. A lot of value, man. I mean, that it kind of reminds me like a lot of the IUL agents now they think they're financial advisors, so they have a license to sell insurance, but they're out selling retirement planning with IULs, and then they're sitting in front of clients helping them with a flawed product, helping them financially, and then they skip over the death benefit. We're going to do increasing, drop the death benefit as low as possible, put some cash in.
Yeah.
And then we have clients that if they died tomorrow, it probably wouldn't even be enough for their spouse or their kids. I mean, that's one problem. But two, if you look at the statistics, you could Google this. The 1 in 3 chance that you'll have a disability or even cancer 40% before retirement. So we're off here trying to focus on someone's retirement income when you haven't even covered the higher probability of what will happen before then. So it just doesn't really make sense. But I think, I mean, as regards to like life insurance, I think if you're going to sell somebody life insurance, look at the life insurance needs, like common sense, right?
Gosh, I mean, what a novel concept. Yeah, I mean,
so sorry to interrupt. It even happens in whole life too. You know, I think there's this huge infinite banking spiel, and everybody's excited about infinite banking. That's great if they want a infinite banking policy and do all that, but make sure they have enough life insurance too, right?
Yeah, I mean, that there's no doubt, and that's been the difference in my philosophy here moving forward, is just like that focus of just buy your net worth, build your cash flow, right? And building your cash flow is where the banking policy will come in, right? And as you build better cash flow, then you can start doing the bigger whole life policies and all that stuff. But don't do that at the expense of not having all the life insurance you could possibly have, because it's a self-completing plan. When you do what we're talking about, if you think about it, we're doing what we're doing. We have these financial strategies to reach financial freedom, sure, but also leave a better legacy and accomplish a goal. Because if most people I talk to are not just trying to reach all this financial success just for themselves. They're trying to do it for their family and for legacy creation and for the next generations and all these things. What we're talking about, when you follow this philosophy and strategy and process and all this stuff, it's the only process in the world. I don't care any investment strategy, any saving strategy, any strategy at all. When you follow what we're talking about, leveraging convertible term and then dealing with the banking policy and making sure your cash flow management inside of that is making sure you're getting the most insurance in the process as well. That's the only way that you're going to be able to have this self-completing plan where you guaranteed are going to leave the next generation better off than what you have right now, you know, or what you started with. And so, yeah, I don't know how we got into that after we're talking about leads.
We're talking about, that's what I like.
Talking about rejection. Oh yeah. Thanks, man. But it's important. I mean, that stuff is important. And I think, it's part of the deal. Right. And I mean, when it comes to, you know, the stuff around rejection with leads, and, you know, if you're buying leads and you're going that, you know, sometimes people just don't understand, you know, people don't know what they don't know. And it's our job to just help them know more. Right. So it's the 4 levels of awareness. Have you ever heard the unconsciously incompetent, right? Where they just don't know what they don't know. And that's most people when it comes to this stuff. Right. And so then our job is to make people consciously incompetent first and foremost. Right. That's the first job, because that's where, if I can make you consciously incompetent, like I'm going to use an example. Matt came to me and he was all about IUL when I first met him. And he's like, I don't know, there's something there, but whatever. And so by watching my videos, I made him consciously incompetent, because what happened was he's like, holy crap, what I think to be true isn't true. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But what I do know is I gotta go deeper. I gotta figure it out. There was this like thread of discontent that he had to get to the bottom of it, right? And that's the same with our personal finances on the journey that we're all on, right? And so he becomes consciously incompetent. And then what's going to happen is he's going to be consciously competent, where it's going to be conscious. You're going to have to be making these decisions, but you're going to become more aware. You're going to do things the right way. You're going to learn about this topic. You're going to study it, and you're going to have to make these conscious decisions to go there. And that's the third level of awareness. And then the fourth level is unconsciously competent, where it's just in your subconscious and it's just natural and it's just going to happen. And, you know, that's the process that everybody goes through in everything in life. And so it's just our job to get people from unconsciously incompetent to consciously incompetent. And then as they want to go, be the coach that helps bring them to consciously competent. And by the time they get to consciously competent, that's when they're going to become a client. That's it. You know what I mean? Because that's when they're going to have enough trust and they're going to believe it enough. They're going to understand it enough to actually pull the trigger and make an educated decision for themselves. And when you do that over the lifeblood of your relationship, as you're there serving them and coaching them and helping them with their policies through that process, they're going to become unconsciously competent, and you're going to be a resource for them. And it's going to be a relationship, and you're going to get referrals, and your business is just going to expand because of the way you serve people. And so if we're willing to go slow to go fast and do this business the right way, learn it the right way, handle relationships the right way, don't just try to slam sales through the door. Don't just try to just hammer all those things through, but actually go slow with relationships with the idea that if you do, there's going to be a lot more there on the back end. And that's what it takes to build a business and be an actual servant leader in this space.
Man, if you just focus on that, you're not going to be focused on rejection, because rejection is really focused on the result. But if you focus on educating people, and just the result's going to be the result, because at the end of the day, we can't force anybody to say yes, right?
Yeah.
All we could do is what we say, how we say it, you know, how we educate people, how we, how we appear to people, and how we present ourselves. But we can't force anybody to say yes. And I think being worried about rejection is the thought of like, you actually think you have that control, right? And if you just focus on what you can, and the results are the results, and then just move on and sleep at night that you did the best that you could to help them understand the information, that's all you could wish for.
Agreed. So, all right. Well, we're hitting an hour almost here. So, anything else you want to cover?
I love it.
I mean, it's just the way it always goes here, right? Like, I can't. I don't think I have the ability to just talk about leads, because I think, I just don't think there's a place for just that. If you need to use leads to be a Kickstarter and to be a place to cut your teeth and get things going, I think it can be a great thing. But I don't think it's a good long-term solution for your business, because of the fact that I don't think you ever are going to have control of your business enough unless you are creating your own leads, right? And if you're creating your own leads, then you can have control, because as things adjust and adapt, and as the rules change, and as the environment changes, you can adapt and kind of ebb and flow with that. But if you're just using vendors and you're buying leads from other people and you don't know where they're coming from and all this different stuff, like, you're never in control. And so you're always at risk, and you're always 1 month away from potentially being out of business, you know? So like, that's not a very good business to be in my estimation. It's not a business I want to be in, that's for sure. You know? And so just my thoughts.
And I think what we do well is we help agents create an authority platform, right? And so let's say you do want to run leads. How much more powerful is that when you're running leads and you have an authority platform that your leads that you just spoke with can come check you out, learn on their own and build trust? You're just going to have a stronger business in that fashion. So I think everybody should have an authority platform, whether it's just a website with maybe a quick 10-minute video or whatever the case may be, but they should be able to find you and learn more about you and what you do, versus just a quick phone call.
Especially if you're doing leads, you need it, because they're going to check you out. You better have a place that makes you show up, because otherwise you're going to teach them about it, and then they're going to come find me, and they're going to want to work with me. Or somebody like me. Right, that has a big channel and a following and whatever, because it's just the way it goes. You have to have a place that shows credibility, and I think that's super, super important. So anyhow, that is it. I have to go check on the renovation of the kitchen, and we're resurfacing the pool right now, and we're redoing the steps to the pool, and we're doing all sorts of work on this place. And it smells like chemicals right now because we sanded and redid all the but we're doing this like lacquer over the, restaining all the wood. And I think I'm getting high right now and I don't even know it. It's crazy. But it's awesome. I'm excited to be doing this. So Anybody wants to come down to the DR, come on down. I'm down here. We got a spot for you. We can check it out, film some content. It'll be fun. So, all right, guys. Anybody have any questions before we roll? I'll give a chance for another question, comment that we can respond to, and then we'll go from there. If not, I guess we're gonna let it roll. All right. Well, cool, man. Matt, thanks for joining me. I'm glad we're back on the live train here, and let's keep it going.
On it every week.
About it. All right, brother. Guys, if you have any questions about anything, there is a link in the description below. Actually, that's on YouTube. If you're on another platform, that's not the case. But if you are on YouTube, go down below, click on the link, set up a clarity call. If you have any questions, one of our team members will be able to help you out. And it literally, we call it a clarity call because the goal is not to sell you anything. It's everything we were just talking about. Honestly, it's just like guide you through, help you go through that educational process so you can make the best educated decision for yourself. I firmly believe that once you learn and know what I know, then you're going to probably make a decision that's in alignment with what we're talking about. And if not, no harm, no foul, at least you learned something. And I think you can never lose if you're learning. And so that's it. So till next time, have a blessed, inspirational day, and we'll see you on the next